June 6, 2016 meeting of the Anne Arundel County Council is now in session. Please stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Grasso.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, once again, we recall before the people to do the work of the people. Please help us make the best decisions we can. Try to keep everybody happy tonight. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, please read the ethics statement.
The Ethics Commission has asked that I advise you that under certain circumstances, members of the public may qualify as lobbyists when they testify before the County Council. If so, the law requires that certain information be filed with the Ethics Commission. The chairman of the Ethics Commission has asked that those present review the Ethics Commission information in the foyer of these chambers. If there are any questions about lobbying requirements, speakers should contact the Ethics Commission in the Heritage Office Complex on Riva Road.
Thank you very much. The council is now going to sit as the Board of Health. So if Ms. Duden, Ms. Chan want to go, Dr. Chan rather want to come up. And I believe Mr. Smith has asked for this. So if you want to kick us off, Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I, over the last 4 years, off and on, as a council member, one of the questions that have come up on a number of occasions is this title and role as the Board of Health. And so it's always been a question that I really never felt like was answered fully, and I always felt like I felt like we were missing some responsibility or I want to clear up the lines in the sand so that if it was a responsibility of mine, I wanted to be held accountable for it, and if it wasn't, then I want to get it off the plate. And so the intent behind this meeting, sitting as the Board of Health, because in the state law it says we as the county council sits as the Board of Health for the county, that we have the authority to do so. And so with that being said, hopefully this will clear up some issues with the rest of the council members. And now that we have I was going to say Ms. Blair, but Ms. Duden, if she can sort of, I guess, introduce yourselves, and then the first question I was going to ask was basically sort of summarizing the opinion that was recently released by your office.
Sure. For the record, Nancy Duden, County Attorney. And one quick correction is it's not that state law says that the County Council is the Board of Health.
A charter.
State law says we have to have a Board of Health, and that it would be the local governing body unless we designate another entity.
Correct.
The local governing body is the County Council and the County Executive, but in our charter, we have designated the County Council as the Board of Health. Okay. So you are the Board of Health.
Correct.
Right.
And so if you can summarize the opinion.
Sure. So basically, the Board of Health is the County Council in Anne Arundel County, and Dr. Chan is the executive officer of the Board of Health. The Board of Health has very limited duties under state law and no additional duties assigned to them under county law. The duties that they have under state law is that the Board of Health is required to meet in both May and October. You can obviously meet at other times like we're doing tonight, but the purpose of the meetings in May and October is for your executive officer, the health officer, to inform you about the state of health in Anne Arundel County. And that information can really run the gamut from new programs to new disease outbreaks, that type of thing. In addition to that, state law says that the Board of Health is charged with the enforcement of anything else that is specified in county law. In this particular county, there is nothing else specified in the county code, so there's nothing there. And then the third component is that the Board of Health can set fees and make rules and regulations about nuisances and diseases in the county. And that's the extent of the powers and duties of the Board of Health.
So what parts of the county code are actually covered, like what sections in the county code?
There are no sections in the county code giving the Board of Health any powers.
No, but what parts of the county code actually discuss the health department or the Board of Health?
Well, there is There are a couple things. I mean, obviously, there are personnel sections that cover the health department, but in addition to that, there is a property maintenance code that Anne Arundel County has adopted, and Dr. Chan could maybe touch on that a little bit further, but that is to enforce the health and safety in our residential communities for things like rodent harborage, trash,
Check.
cockroaches, you know, that
Do you
type
have,
of thing.
I don't know if they have,
The property maintenance code would be part of Article 15.
so in Article 5,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, do they have the copies of these down there already? So if I can just get you to turn to Article 5 real quick, Section 553, that's on that bottom line.
I don't have a copy of it.
No, I don't have a copy of it.
Oh, okay, not Article, so Section 553 of the charter, yes.
Check.
Yeah, there's nothing in our code, but there is in
I
our
know.
charter, yeah.
So could you just summarize what Section 553 is?
So Section 553 is the section where Anne Arundel County decided, instead of having both the county executive and the county council as the Board of Health, that we would designate only the county council as the Board of Health. So what it says is that, and this is the Department of Health, not the Board of Health.
Correct.
Okay?
Correct.
The Department of Health shall consist of the county health officer and all officers, agents, and employees under his authority and supervision or under the authority and supervision of the county Board of Health. The county council shall constitute the county Board of Health. With the advice and consent of the do you want me to read the whole thing? Okay, with the advice and consent of the State Secretary of Health and Mental Hygiene, the county executive shall submit to the county council his recommendation for the appointment of a county health officer, and when approved by the council, the same shall constitute the appointment required by state law. All references in this charter to the head of an office or department shall be construed as including the county health officer as head of the Department of Health. But nothing in this charter contained shall be held or construed as affecting or in any wise changing the administration of the county health programs in accordance with the requirements of state law.
And you mentioned this earlier, so who constitutes the Board of Health?
The Board
In
of
Anne Arundel
Health
County?
is the health officer, Dr. Chan, she's the executive officer, plus the county council.
And how was the health officer appointed?
The health officer is appointed by the county executive with the approval of the state secretary of DHMH and then voted on by the county council.
So all three have essentially a role in the appointment process for it.
Exactly. Dr. Chan is in the perhaps unenviable position of having three entities that she has to coordinate
Check.
with: the Board of Health, the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, and the executive branch of the government.
In that last paragraph of Section 553, what does the last sentence means? Of 553, all references in this charter to head of the office, yes, that last sentence. But nothing in this
So-
charter contained shall be held or construed as affecting or in any wise changing the administration of the county health programs in accordance with the requirements of state law. So what does that mean?
Means is that, for lack of a better term, Dr. Chan's big boss is the state. The Department of Health and Mental Hygiene sets most rules and regulations and protocols for the Department of Health, and Dr. Chan has to follow those.
Check.
The Board of Health can pass rules and regulations that affect nuisance and disease, but only if they do not conflict
Correct.
with state law.
So the state law still, so if it's not in the county charter, we have to resort to the state code? Or those are sort of a parallel universe of provisions that we have to concur with anyway?
For most programs within the Department of Health, yes, that's absolutely correct. We do look at the property maintenance code in Article 15 when it comes to
Check.
the things I talked about before with residential properties.
And if I could piggyback on that, just for the record, my name is Dr. Jinlene Chan. I'm the health officer with the Anne Arundel County Department of Health. To piggyback on Ms. Duden's comments, there's a significant portion of delegated authorities delegated from the Secretary for Department of Health and Mental Hygiene to the health officers at the local level, basically acting as sort of an agent of the Secretary at the local level. So that's a fair amount of authority that's based in state code.
Correct.
That's correct.
So is it fair to say that is it fair to say that we have to conform to the state laws when it comes to the delivery of healthcare services for the health department?
Yes.
And the health officer?
Yes,
Okay, so state law
absolutely.
applies.
State law applies.
So if you go to Article 2, there's another copy, another document that I had down there. I should have a copy of. So under Article 2, Title 1, Subtitle 6, Section 603, it says the health. You see that?
Yes.
What is that paragraph?
That 21603 it talks about what to do if there is a vacancy in Dr. Chan's position and how that person would be appointed and what their qualifications would be.
Okay. So are there any other parts of the county charter that details the use of the health officer and the Board of Health? Are there any other part? Are these the two main provisions right here?
That's it.
Right, okay.
That's it right there. As the Board of Health, you can pass additional rules and
Correct.
regulations. You simply have not done that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So if you go, and I got another form, sorry about that, I just like to be detailed.
That's okay.
I don't know if they have it. I think it's this staple portion right here. So if you switch to it, that's the health, that's a state code. This is all the
That's the
state
state
codes
code, yes.
provisions.
That's correct.
So if you go to 3-201 in the state code, can you explain what this section is?
Yes, this is what I was saying before, that in state code, it says that the Board of Health is the governing body of the county unless the governing body establishes a separate Board of Health. So governing body is a defined term, and what governing body means is the county council plus the county executive. But we have decided to exercise that last clause unless the county has provided for. So we have changed that, and in our charter, we have made the Board of Health just the county council.
On the next page is 3-202, miscellaneous powers and duties. Again, this is out of the state code. I think in the opinion, Ms. Blair sort of cited a couple of these items. I remember specifically saying the County Board of Health shall exercise those duties in each municipality. The special taxes she mentioned. She also mentioned the duties meet in May and October of each year, which is in B. Any other time, coordinates its activities with the department, and report to the department on any sanitary conditions, which you just mentioned earlier, of the county whenever the board considers it important and necessary to do so. And then she even talks about the nuisance, or you even spoke about the nuisance and the fees.
Correct.
So it's pretty much just talking about additional sort of powers and duties that the health officer is responsible for. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So if you go to section 3-305, sorry to jump around there.
That's okay.
And so can you discuss section 305, annual evaluation?
This is talking about an annual evaluation of the person in Dr. Chan's position specifically, and I'm going to have to defer to Dr. Chan as to how she gets evaluated. She would know that better.
So what does the state law say? So before Dr. Chan reads, what is the state laws?
What the state law says is that the county council So skip where it says governing body, because we've decided it's the county council. The county council of each county shall establish the process by which the county evaluates its health officer. The secretary, and so that means the state secretary of DHMH, shall establish by rule or regulation the process by which the secretary evaluates the health officers.
Correct.
And then it goes on to say that an annual evaluation is required by both the secretary and by the county in writing.
So who is the county?
The county is just all of us, the county. So that could be done through the Office of Personnel after you all decide what the procedure is going to be. So if you go back up to number 1, it says that the governing body should establish by ordinance or resolution the process by which Dr. Chan would be evaluated.
Okay.
But that evaluation could in fact be done through the Office of Personnel, just like every other evaluation.
So the Board of Health could modify and say annually we will evaluate her.
You could choose to do that under A1.
Section B, yeah, or A1, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And section 306, I think it's the next paragraph or the next page. Can you explain or discuss some of the general with this powers and duties? What does this article means?
These are powers and duties for the health officer specifically, and it goes on to say in this case, she may obtain samples of food and drugs for analysis. It says that she's the executive officer and the secretary of the Board of Health.
Correct. So that's one of the duties, and so
Right.
so as the Board of Health, she's our executive officer.
Correct.
And our secretary.
Correct.
Can you jump down to 5? Number 5.
Yes. A health officer shall perform any investigation or other duty or function directed by the secretary or the county Board of Health and submit appropriate reports to them.
So what does that mean?
So that means that if there is some information that you choose to get, say for instance, you want a report from Dr. Chan outside the May and October reports, say there's an outbreak of Zika and you decide that you need a report about that from Dr. Chan, you can direct her as the Board of Health to gather information about the Zika outbreak and
Correct.
what is being done and have her report that information.
So what
to
does
you.
other duty or function means? Can you read? A health officer shall perform any investigation
Right.
or other duty, which is the or function. What does that mean?
Right. So that would be the gathering of information. It would be, say you wanted to, ask her to do something else in addition to the duty she already carries out that she reports to you in May and October. It's pretty wide open, except that it has to not conflict with state law.
Correct. Correct.
And it has to not conflict with our charter and our code.
So does the charter spell out any provisions that this would conflict with? Our county charter?
Well, this section doesn't conflict with anything, but I would have to have a specific example of a duty
Well,
that
and-
you,
and
if
all
you
the-
asked her to go out and take people's guns away,
Well,
yeah,
I mean,
that's
obviously
gonna
we
conflict,
wouldn't do
so-
that, but if there was something health related, obviously, or health department related, what it appears to me, I mean, when I see that, so I'm a military guy, right? Words have
Right.
meaning, and so
Right.
if you tell me that I, as a commanding officer, have the ability to task, direct, it said, or investigate, or I'm sorry, let me read this. A health officer shall perform any investigation or other duty. So that's telling me that I can assign, we as the Board of Health can assign her a duty or a function that she may or may not be doing right now that doesn't conflict with state law.
That
directed-
doesn't conflict with state law,
Or the
our
secretary.
charter, or our code.
Doesn't conflict with the charter
Right.
because we already ascertained
and
earlier.
is within her sort of job description as health officer.
Correct. Like
Yes.
we wouldn't tell her to go do police work.
Right.
As a
Exactly.
and she can be directed by the secretary or she can be directed by the county Board of Health.
That's correct.
and then submit those appropriate reports to them. So if we vote on something, we, as the Board of Health, is speaking, and so she would then have to bring those reports back, or whatever information that we asked her to
Right,
to
if you
come up
asked
with.
her to gather information, again, on a
On-
Zika outbreak,
On school nurses. If we asked her to bring information on school nurses, if we voted on that, she would obviously have to bring back any data that she's collected on school nurses, correct?
not data that she's collected for the executive branch. So in other
Okay.
words, if you, sometimes,
Okay,
and
so we
it's the
task
same
her-
thing that I have to do.
Got it,
So
so-
I have two masters, you and the county executive. There are occasions where I will get a request for legal advice that is almost identical from both branches of the government. and
So what do you do
just-
then?
You just answer both branches of the government.
Okay.
But separately.
Correct. Which
And
makes sense.
so you might ask her for certain information that she's already provided to the executive branch of the government, but it has to be an independent request that says, we want to hear A, B, C, not, we want to know what you told the
Correct.
county executive.
Fair. That's, I actually agree with that. That makes sense to me. On 5D, if Dr. Chan, do you have that same paper? Do you have a?
We can
sharing
share,
it.
yeah.
Can you read section 5D, which is right under that Board of Health investigator or other duty or functions directed by its secretary?
So duty, so is this the authority to enter into
Yes.
contracts?
Yes. Can you read that?
So there's an authority to enter into contracts or agreements for delivery of healthcare services, subject to the consent of the governing body of the county.
Pause. What is governing body? Ms. Duden?
Governing body is both you and the county
So
executive.
she said, subject to the consent of the governing body, which is who?
You and the county
Okay.
executive.
All right, you can finish reading, please.
And the written approval of the secretary, a health officer for a county may enter into a contract or any other written agreement to assist or participate in the delivery of healthcare services with a person that is authorized to provide, finance, coordinate, facilitate, or otherwise deliver healthcare services in the state.
Would you consider the school nurse program a healthcare service?
Not under that section because it's governed by a completely different section of state law. School health nursing is covered by its own section of state law. If you'll just bear with me for a minute while I pull those materials out.
What would be services that she can contract for?
So
Minus the school nurse.
for example, there are some counties that are entertaining and are doing contracts with managed care organizations to be able to contract, and so it's a contract with the managed care organization to then provide services at the health department that they would then bill for.
Mr. Smith, Councilman Smith, school health programs are governed by Title VII, Subtitle 4 of the Education Article of the State Code. That's where we go to look for school health services.
But back to 5, the one above that, a health officer shall perform any investigation or other duty or function directed by the secretary or the county board of health and submit appropriate reports to them. That's a valid state regulation, right? And so the board of health
Absolutely.
can direct, okay? So when you read that line, does that sound limited?
As I said before, it's only limited by the state code, which trumps whatever the directions from the Secretary of the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene are, trump anything that you might ask Dr. Chan to do that conflict with the direction that's already been given by the state. And it's also limited by our charter and our code.
But the charter doesn't specify, the charter essentially reverts you back to the state code.
Absolutely. So the only limitation I could see is right now, I think I referenced earlier, the property maintenance code where Dr. Chan's inspectors go out and look at, for instance, rodent harborage. If this body, as the Board of Health, decided to direct her to do something that contradicted what she's required to do under the property maintenance code, that would be prohibited without a change in the property maintenance code that you would do as county council. No, that's pretty wide open.
And the last, because I feel like I'm eating up a lot of time. Back to the executive officer. What is an executive officer?
An executive officer is exactly what it is in the normal parlance. It is the person that acts as the chair of the group, and, there are no other specified powers and duties within our code, so it's just the normal expectation from an executive officer.
Would you consider the executive officer and the health officer two different hats, two different roles?
Yes. Yes.
So is it fair to say that the executive officer is a role that is completely, I don't want to say the words, sub to the Board of Health? It's a function that is completely under supervision of the Board of Health?
No, the executive officer is the executive officer of the Board of Health.
Check.
So the health officer has to follow the direction of the secretary first, and then whatever reasonable direction within the charter and the code that she receives from either the Board of Health or the executive branch of the government. As the executive officer, so in other words, for lack of a better term.
So you're saying the executive officer is...
The health officer is not the minion of the Board of Health.
Correct.
But you do have the capability, as the Board of Health, of which she is a member as well, to decide and vote on directives for her as the health officer. So for instance, if you all wanted to vote on something that she as the health officer felt she shouldn't have to do, she would get a vote on the Board of Health, but if she was outvoted, you would be able to give her the direction to do whatever the thing was, as long as it didn't contradict the state law, the charter, or the code. Say you wanted to say, Dr. Chan, I think you should have a needle giveaway, and we're going to vote on the needle giveaway. And the vote, she doesn't think a needle giveaway is a good idea. And so the vote comes out and she votes against it, but the majority of the Board of Health votes for it. You can direct her to hold a needle giveaway if that's what you choose to do, because it has to do with nuisance and disease within the county.
I guess I'm confused on when did she become when did if I'm looking at the charter, 553, when the county council shall constitute the Board of Health. The county council shall constitute the county Board of Health. It doesn't say.
No, that's in state law. In state law, it says that the health officer is the executive officer of the Board of
Correct,
Health.
but we have a charter, and we've designated, just like you provision in that charter, in the state code, unless there's a charter provision. And we have a charter, and the charter in that portion.
No, all that means is that the Board of Health is the county council with the health officer. There is nothing in the powers and duties of the health officer being the executive officer of the Board of Health in this section of the code that allows us to change it in our charter. So she is the
Which section is the
executive
state code, did you say?
It is 3306, health general article first, 3306 C1. The health officer for a county is the executive officer and secretary of the county Board of Health. That's regardless of who we've decided the Board of Health is.
But that's, what I'm saying is, that says the health officer for a county is the executive officer and secretary of the county Board of Health.
Correct.
It doesn't say that person is a member of the Board of Health.
I guess maybe then our difference in interpretation is I'm interpreting it as the executive officer being a member of the Board of Health.
But it doesn't, it doesn't say that. It says the health officer for a county is the executive officer and secretary of the county Board of Health. It doesn't say that. How does that interpret as being a member?
I would assume the executive officer, it's like being the chairman of the
I
board.
got it, but in the state code, it just designates the health officer as the EO and the secretary, and our charter says the council is the Board of Health. It doesn't say anything about the secretary being a member of the Board of Health.
But we're not allowed to trump that state law.
But what I'm saying is that state law doesn't say that. I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out where you see
Well,
that
I
at.
can do some more research
Okay.
into that and let you know what her position as executive officer and secretary means.
Okay? I mean, that's, health officer for a county is the executive officer and secretary of the county Board of Health.
Right.
That part is just designating her as the EO and as the secretary of the Board of Health.
Right.
It doesn't say she's a member of the Board of Health. It doesn't say, like in this charter, the county council shall constitute the county Board of Health.
She's not an ex officio member of the Board of Health. She is the executive officer for the
Correct.
Board of Health.
Correct.
What I'm saying is I will do more research and get back to you on
Okay.
whether I'm correct or you're correct that the executive officer is a member.
Okay? Seems pretty, all right. So the reason I brought it up is because when I read the opinion and she mentioned limited, I don't know, I would challenge the council to, I think our role is much more than just limited. And just because we have never exercised our role as the County Board of Health doesn't mean that that role doesn't exist. And so, I challenge any of you, sort of do your own research. I'm looking at the state law and at the county charter, and it literally spells out in black and white what those roles are. So I'll pause, and if anyone wants to ask any questions, certainly. But definitely thank you for the opportunity to ask those questions, then.
Sure.
All right. Well,
Chair?
thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Walker?
I got a couple questions that I'd like to probe into, if you don't mind. Dr. Chan, there's been a lot of discussion, out there about outsourcing. Can you tell us at what point you began researching the potential of outsourcing the school health services?
Hold on. In what respect? Just looking at the possibility, or?
I mean, we've already have an RFI out, so that's, it seems to me that you don't issue an RFI that's as detailed as the one that's been sent out without some previous consideration over a period of time, and I'm just curious when that started.
This spring.
Okay. March timeframe or February?
It was around March.
March, okay. Can you share with us who prompted the investigation into that? Who prompted the question? I guess what started the process?
This was a discussion with the county administration.
Okay, so specifically with the county executive or with other members of his staff, or?
There's always a team working on these kinds of discussions, so it was a group.
Was the county executive involved in the group?
At various times.
Okay. And who did you assign within the health department to look into or kind of explore the options that might be out there with regards to outsourcing?
So we, we are still in the process of looking at the options. So it's not solely within the Department of Health. This is really, as I have indicated, it involves a number of different people. So we have not actually finished even the process of looking at options.
Right, but I mean, within your agency, I'm assuming if there's a discussion going on and the bulk of the personnel is in a chain of command that falls directly under you, I'm assuming that someone within your organization was assigned to participate in the process of investigating the outsourcing, or were you not involved in it? It was just something the administration was working on?
So I guess, when you're talking about investigating the outsourcing, there's sort of a process where we're beginning to talk about, well, what would the potential process be? So
That wasn't what I
we
was
did
asking.
not-
I was asking more like, what if there was anyone within your organization, in your chain of command, that was tasked with examining this or looking at it?
So my director of school health was involved in some of the initial discussions.
was that?
But not with the investigation of options.
Who are you
That's
referring to? I
Karen
don't know the title.
Siska.
Okay, thank you. As part of the process, I understand there's an RFI that's been issued. Did you review the RFI personally?
No. Yes, I did.
You did, okay. So you were provided a copy of it prior to it being sent out?
I did review an initial draft.
Okay.
I did not see the final.
Okay. As part of the, was there people on your staff who reviewed it? Reviewed the
Yes.
file? They reviewed the final or they reviewed a draft? Do you know?
They reviewed the draft.
Okay. And who was that?
That included myself, Dr. Rose, as well as Karen Siska and Aisha Alston,
Okay.
the deputy director.
Based on the direction this is sort of heading, I mean, there's not really a lot of information out there, which I think is probably part of the concern, not only amongst the employees, but members of the council as well as the public. Do you feel that that it's within the power of the health department to outsource the nurses program?
Well, I would say that at this point, just to your initial opening phrase that, knowing where this is headed, I think that we don't believe that we know where this is headed at this point. I think
Well,
this is
I
still an
understand.
exploratory phase.
I understand that you're
meaning there are
exploring.
still
I'm just saying, is it
multiple
within your
options.
power, is what I'm saying.
There are still multiple options that are being looked at.
I understand that,
so-
but I'm saying if one of those options was selected that was included outsourcing, do you feel like that's something that was within the power of the Board of Health to decide unilaterally?
If I can jump in.
I actually wasn't asking you,
Okay.
Ms. Student, I apologize, but I'm talking to Dr. Chan, if you don't mind.
So I don't know if I can comment on the Board of Health in particular. Are you
Mm-hmm.
asking about the Board of Health?
I'm just asking if you can do it unilaterally without input from Board of Health, Board of Education. I mean, do you feel like you and your staff can make the decision without any input from other county departments, Board of Education included?
Well, that is a legal question that you're asking in terms of what is the process of determining the steps that one might take to consider the change of a program, whether it's this or another program. So, certainly there is very few things in county government that are determined unilaterally by any single department. And so we are, as such, working very closely with the County Central Services Office and the Purchasing Office in particular.
And what role do you feel like the Board of Education has in this whole process?
I think they are an important partner in this.
Have they been consulted through this process?
They are included in some of the discussions, yes.
That's not what I'm hearing. What discussions have they been included in?
Mr. Walker, I'm going to interrupt here because what you're asking for is privileged executive branch information about the discussions that they are having with various partners. I can answer the legal question for you if you want, that the health department and the Board of Education have to make this decision together with input from both departments, but as far as
So you're
who's
saying that the
spoken
Board
to
of Ed
whom-
has to be involved in the final decision, is what you're saying?
Yes, absolutely.
So why is it taking this long for that to come out?
I don't know
Nobody
what you
said-
mean by come
Nobody
out.
has said that that's part of the decision-making process.
No one
throughout
in
all
the
this.
administration has been asked about this. As far as I know my office wasn't asked until we were asked to do the legal opinion that Lori Blair did for Mr. Trumbauer that he shared with all of you, where she clearly says it is a collaborative process between the Department of Health and the Department of Education.
So I guess from your legal perspective then, what would that look like, the collaboration that you're referring to? I mean, are you saying that if the county had a proposal that they arrived at, theoretically administration came up with some plan, that they would then have to go and get sign off from Dr. Arlato or from the Board of Education as a whole, have to vote on it? I mean, what mechanism, I guess, would be triggers the Board of Education's
I mean, this is all
collaboration?
fairly speculative because, as Dr. Chan has said, all we have done at this point, all that anybody has done is ask for information. But once a decision is made, if a decision is made about moving forward with some type of change, then it would be analyzed at that time to see who had to weigh in and take a vote. But at the bare minimum, it would involve conversations, I would believe, between the administration and Dr. Orlato.
And would Dr. Orlato have to agree at a minimum?
Not necessarily, no.
So
I
the
mean,
administration
there's
could
no-
move forward without the Board of Ed's consent, in your opinion?
That's a possibility. I mean, at this point, so 20 years ago, the administration and the Board of Education decided, 20-plus years ago, that the Department of Health would manage and govern school health services. So I don't want to speak for Dr. Orlato here, but certainly there is no intention, as I understand it, because we have also advised the administration that this has to be a collaborative process with input from the board or Dr. Orlato before a decision is made. But again, speculating about what that input has to be, because we don't know what the proposal is going to be, is a little difficult at this time.
Got it. Are you aware that there's a MOU that's signed each year between the county and the Board of Education?
I am, yes.
Okay. And is that MOU, when does that expire? Does the current one expire?
I believe it expires in June of each year, as I recall.
And is the administration currently working with the Board of Education to generate an additional MOU, a new one?
We actually just signed off on another one. We do that on an annual basis. I just signed off on it.
So is the Board of Ed signed off on it too, or?
I think it was being circulated to Dr. Orlato for signature.
Okay.
However, the content of this MOU has not changed from a number of years. So it outlines.
So if they
the-
don't sign off on it, they could theoretically suggest changes to it, correct?
I assume so, but there's usually some conversation before the MOU is circulated, if that would take place.
If, so the county's moving forward with it from your perspective. You signed off on your copy of it. And did you sign off on it recently, or?
Yes, so this is the MOU that we have had for a number of years, and it outlines the current responsibilities that the Board of Ed or the Anne Arundel County Public School System, as well as the department has vis-a-vis the school health program, and it outlines some of the arrangements regarding the school health staff within the Department of Health.
Right.
So this is the same MOU. There's not been any changes.
Is there involvement from the Office of Law? Does the Office of Law review that typically, or no?
I'm not familiar with this specific one, but we are supposed to review every single contract in MOU, so I would defer to Dr. Chan. I'm going to assume Jason Fetterman has reviewed it and signed it for form and legal sufficiency.
I will need to double check on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you get us a copy of the MOU?
I believe one was sent to the auditor, the most recent one.
Okay. Switching gears just for a second, Ms. Duden, who, in your opinion, is responsible for the delivery of the school health services?
The delivery of the school health services is a responsibility of both the Department of Health and the Board of Education. Traditionally, or for quite some time, the school health program was run through the Board of Education, and I believe it was in the late 90s, so a little more than 20 years ago, when it was decided that it could be more efficiently run through the Department of Health, and since that time in the late 90s, it has been, in fact, run through the Department of Health as it is today.
Dr. Chan, when we had questions during the budget process, there were a couple of things that I had asked you about. One of which was, and I think you might have alluded to some of that in your questioning with Mr. Smith, or maybe it was Ms. Duden, about, if there was a Zika outbreak or something like that. If there were, well, let me ask you this. How many employees within the school health system are there with the Board of Health?
How many are there in the school
with the Department
system?
of Health, sorry. Yes.
How many are
Under your command that are
in the school health
system, correct.
So there's approximately 300.
Okay. And are those, or could they be used for any purpose within the Department of Health? I mean, if there was, like, as an example, an outbreak of Zika or some sort of disaster that happened.
So all Department of Health employees, as I indicated in my response to you on May 10th, are considered potentially emergency essential and can be declared such in the event of a public health need.
And would that include potential contractors? I mean, do you have contractors now that you would access and then pull in for emergency situations?
So this would include any staff that we had a contractual or some kind of employment relationship with, yes.
So if there was a contractual relationship with an outside organization to supply employees, that would be negotiated as part of the contract?
We have not gotten to that point yet, but that could be considered potentially. In my email to Ms. Belair, Ms. Duden, one of the things that she had quoted in her opinion, it says here in Title 7, Subtitle 4 of the Education article, this is an email dated May 18 of this year.
Right, I have it in front of me.
She quotes subsection 7-401A and says, Number 1, provides that a county school board of education, with the assistance of the county health department, shall provide adequate school health services. So it sounds to me like the Board of Education is ultimately responsible for providing school health, not necessarily the Department of Health. Is that, you're not, is your understanding?
No, the Office of Law has interpreted that as a collaboration, that the Department of Health, along with the Board of Education, are responsible for school health services. As I've stated, some 20 years ago, that was turned over to the Department of Health.
So the word assisting seems to me that it sets up a relationship where the Board of Education is the superior entity and the Department of Health is the inferior entity if the Department of Health is in fact assisting the Board of Education.
So that's the way the State Department of Health and Mental Hygiene set things up, but in practicality throughout the state of Maryland, we have many different models of school health. In some counties, the Board of Education runs it. In some counties, the Department of Health runs it. We happen to be a county that went from one model to the other model, but what that really means is that the Board of Education is in fact responsible for seeing that school health services are provided, but it is within their power to turn over the management of those school health services to the Department of Health, which is what they've done in Anne Arundel County for the last 20 plus years.
But they've done that in a collaborative way, is that correct? So
well, Dr. Chan would have to comment on exactly how much collaboration there is from the Board of Education. I think it's primarily managed just through the Department of Health at this point.
Well, the MOU outlines that relationship more formally, but absolutely, I think on a day-to-day basis, there is a significant amount of collaboration and teamwork between the Department of Health as well as the Anne Arundel County Public School System to ensure the health and well-being of the students in the school system.
Fair enough. Mr. Chair, I have no further questions.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to clear one last
Mr.
question.
Smith, well, this last question, then we're going to move on as we've been on this for an hour.
So, Ms. Student, just because that threw me for a loop when you said it earlier. So when I went back to the county or the state code under section 321, and I think you have it, it actually has county governing body or designated board. It has that code in there.
I'm sorry, say that section again.
3-201 should be the first page.
Okay, got it.
And you said earlier that the state code sort of reigns supreme over the county, correct?
Yes.
And in the state code, it says, in general, except as provided in subsection B, which you said subsection B because we're a charter government, and a county code, and a code county or charter county, which is us,
Right.
The governing body is ex officio the Board of Health for the county unless the governing body establishes a Board of Health. And you
Correct.
said earlier that we did.
That's correct.
And in our county charter, section 553,
Absolutely.
it says the county council shall constitute the county Board of Health.
Right.
Nowhere in there does it say that the health officer is a member of the Board of Health.
No, I acknowledge that, but what I want to do some more research on
There's no research.
is,
It's
I know what it
right
says
here.
in the charter, but this section is not the same section where it says that the health officer under state code, which cannot be trumped, is the executive officer of the Board of Health. I
Correct.
would interpret that as a member of the Board of Health, so I need to do some research, because you're obviously interpreting that as
I'm
not a
interpreting.
member.
I'm not interpreting it. I just want to read this last portion right here. So I think it's important. Under powers and duties, section 3-306, which is
Right?
powers and duties of the health officer, not the Board of Health, but the health officer.
Right.
It gives her under duties, says that the health officer for a county is the executive officer and secretary of the county Board of Health.
Right.
Doesn't say a member, just like saying, if I give you a duty to I don't know, open the door at 6 o'clock, you don't own the house. Your duty is to open the door
No,
at 6
but if
o'clock.
you appoint me as the chairman of your board, I'm a member of that board. So
But it doesn't
all
appoint you
I'm
as a member of
saying
the,
is-
it doesn't, in that
all
code,
I'm
it doesn't do
saying is,
that.
I'm going to do some research and see, executive officer, does it mean she's a member or not? I'm just going to do that research, because I just can't agree with you right now. I'm not saying I disagree, I'm saying I need to do some
I'm not an
more
attorney, I'm just saying that it's black and white. So, but I look forward to the.
Well, it's black and white that she's the executive officer.
Correct,
What that
which is a
means, we have
role,
to-
doesn't,
All right, we're gonna move on if that's okay. We've spent an hour on this.
no, it was good, it was good. Look, I'm
Student
excited that
agreed
we
to
had
get
this
back to
this
you.
opportunity, because in the 4 years that I've been here, I've never quite sort of studied what this role is. And now I'm looking forward to sort of seeing what that opinion that you mentioned, as well as these newfound abilities
I will,
that it appears we have, and exercising those duties and responsible. So
In
thank you. Mr.
closing, I'll give Mr. Hartzell 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. It's Mark Hartzell. I'm the CAO here for the county. Just a couple points of clarification. One of the things that I want everybody to be aware of is that as we undertook the initiative to go about and looking at opportunities for what was best for the school health program, please bear in mind that this was one of the transition report items that had been put forth to the county executive back when he was brought into office. And so one of the things that we're doing is following up as an item to the transition report. Secondarily to that, as it relates to why wasn't the administration forthcoming with information as it relates to Councilman Walker's assertion that we had never been forthright in terms of our collaboration with the school board and the health department. First off, Dr. Chan is the senior officer for the Department of Health. And before we even undertook the notion of taking a look at school health program, we had contacted the school board to let them know that this was a transition report item. This is something that we were going to do. I want to be very clear, okay? I want to be very clear to all of you. I want to be very clear to all of the folks that are in attendance here today that the administration, first and foremost, individuals from the school health program had approached the administration to inquire about, one, increased pay, benefits package, career pathing, and so forth. So in any administration, it's always going to behoove us to make sure that we look at all opportunities that we can in order to benefit what best benefits the school health program. And that's what we've done. So no decisions have been made. We've reached out for information. Any decisions or any belief of decisions that have been made to the contrary are just untrue. They aren't. We received back the RFI on the 24th. We're putting together a technical group of people to score those things, at which time, once that's done, that then becomes a public document. Other people can be involved and review it. We will absolutely, in collaboration with the school board and any other authority that we need to get consultation on to make sure that we're moving forward in the right direction, we will do. There's been no sort of underhanded task by the administration to do otherwise. We want what's best for the school health program. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to move on. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the council briefly on any subject not on the printed agenda? And I do have a sign-up sheet, so we will start off with those folks first. And I have 6 seats up front, so I'm going to call 6 names, ask all 6 of you to come up. I do have a tendency to butcher names, so I apologize in advance. We'll start out with Stacy Lively, Rachel Lively, William Nelson, Gwen Hoover, Suzanne Wingard, Carrie Moran,
What you're going to say?
Start with Stacy when you're ready. I ask you to please keep your remarks to 2 minutes. At the 2-minute time, you'll hear a very obnoxious noise ring. And we'll ask you to summarize at that point. So Stacy, when you're ready.
I'm over here, Stacy Lavery. Well, that's what I'm going to start off with. I'll just read this. My name is Stacy Lavery, and I would like to speak to you regarding Anne Arundel County's potential plans to privatize the school health program. As a parent of a child with a special health need, I like to think I'm qualified to tell you why this idea would not only be a huge step backwards, but would create unintended consequences resulting in unacceptable health risks for county children. My daughter is 14 years old. This is she. And she's had type 1 diabetes since she was 20 months old. I was terrified to death about my child entering kindergarten, not knowing who would help her count her carbs, calculate and inject her insulin, and come to her rescue should she have dangerously low or high blood sugars. I was quickly consoled when I learned that Anne Arundel County insisted that schools administering injectables would ensure that there was at least an LPN available to help her. And that was many years ago. She's now in 8th grade. I've had wonderful experiences with the nurses Rachel has worked with. They are so much more than healthcare providers. They are advocates, teachers, and a built-in support system. My daughter must learn how to care for herself one day. Diabetes is a life skill she must attain through a progressive path to independence. And nurses know their students. And along with the endocrinologist and the parents working together as a team, these kids learn necessary skills and gain the confidence to care for themselves. Nurses who rotated or in some temporary nature or contractors would never have the opportunity to really have gotten to know my daughter. They would never would have known how her diabetes affected her, how after certain foods or activities, and they would have never been able to help her attain independence. Nurses who aren't invested in their schools would just look at the orders and treat these kids more like numbers because they don't know them. They would inadvertently put children's health at risk through no fault of their own. That's the situation they've been placed in. They wouldn't be able to realize if something was off with the child. Numbers don't always tell the story. For example, if numbers are in range before gym, she might not be okay. If the nurse knows that on pizza day, she'll crash out after a while, and so they would treat her.
Please summarize.
Yes, sir. Basically changing our system away from the flagship system that it is, that all over the country hail as the model of care, would take away the very ingredients that make our system great. And if the reason the county wants to consider outsourcing is simply a matter of budget, then I implore you as the county council to fund this program properly and provide benefits and pay of these angels of mercy.
Thank you. Rachel?
That was awesome.
Well, as my mom explained, I'm 14 and I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when I was 20 months. So I've had it for 12 years, and starting school when I was younger was really scary because nobody really knew how to take care of me, considering they hadn't had a diabetic with special needs like mine for 15 years prior. And they picked up really quickly on what I would need. They were really invested in my well-being, which was obviously important to me because I was terrified just starting school anyway. And I've also had experiences with nurses who, like a substitute nurse that would come for a few days at a time, and they didn't know me, so I would have to explain every detail of my life to them, and it would just get tiring, and they wouldn't understand what I would need at particular times. And these nurses are so invested in my well-being and the well-being of every student at our school that I think that it's an important thing to not privatize. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. William Nielsen?
Yes, my name is William Nielsen. I'm here as a concerned parent. I have a son, actually I have twins that are in Lothian Elementary in the 4th grade. They were born prematurely. My son has had quite a number of medical problems. He's got asthma, and has both an inhaler and albuterol in the health room. He's had allergies, and once again, Benadryl and an EpiPen in the health room. And he's had to have his EpiPen used by my wife and myself. Fortunately, it hasn't had to be used at the school health room yet. But most concerning is he's also got a nasal encephalocele. His neurosurgeon up until last year was Dr. Ben Carson, who perhaps you've heard of. And we're very concerned if he gets hit in the head. Right now, we're pretty much assured that he's going to get the proper care. We know who the nurses are, who the health assistants are at the school, as far as getting his neurologic checks or, if necessary, getting 911 out of the school. I won't have that confidence if this is sent over to a private company where you've got rotating health care people in there. We won't know if there's enough staff to evaluate him correctly, and they're watching out for bottom line rather than watching out for my child. And they also have incentives as to providing what are their incentives, which may be counter to the proper medical care for him. Frankly, I don't see where we'd want to mess with something that isn't broken right now. And I think we should keep the current system where we have the school health system under the Department of Health and have them as county employees who we have control over. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Hoover?
Hi, I'm Gwen Hoover. I'm an LPN in school health, and I've resided in Pasadena all my life. When I went to school, we didn't have nurses. We had parent volunteers. I can tell you that this is the 6th school that I've been in. I know all my students. I can tell you their names. I know their parents. I probably know their phone numbers by heart. I don't understand how privatizing would be any better than what we already have, because I give the utmost care to all my students. They look forward to seeing me on a daily basis, and when I'm not there, they ask where I am. I'm just at a loss because, like I said, I've been in school health. This will be my 15th year come next school year, and I've worked everywhere from special needs at Ruth Eason and all the way to where I am now in Severna Park. And I'm a mom of 2 kids, and I can't imagine if I had a student or my child with special needs and I didn't have what we have in our school health. We know our kids. Every day, our kids come in. We know what meds they take. We know their background. We know their parents. We know their siblings. We are their family. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Hello, my name is Suzanne Wingard. I'm a school nurse, and I want to thank you for letting me talk tonight on behalf of School Health Services. I'm just going to repeat a couple numbers that I'm sure you guys have all heard, and ladies. We have 83,000 students in Anne Arundel County. 30% of them have at least one chronic illness. And the role of the school nurse is to help manage those students. So even though a lot of kids are healthy, we really case manage a lot of families and kids, 30% of 83,000. And we work with their doctors and help to keep them healthy so they can learn in school. Also, I want to remind you that there's 300 employees in School Health Services. That's 300 families and spouses that are going to be affected by these changes. A couple other points I'd like to make is if the if School Health Services is to be, the top priority, I don't know that they can guarantee that our benefits and our job security is going to be any better if it's outsourced. I don't know if I made my point right, but lastly, I want to say that I don't know a lot about politics, but it seems that one person should not have so much power to make such a drastic decision that's going to affect so many people. I mean, that's why the president can't make big changes without a lot of other people agreeing with it. So I just want to say, I hope that just one or two people can't change so many lives.
Thank you.
Negatively. Thank you.
Thank you. And Carrie?
Hello, my name is Carrie Moran. I've been a registered nurse for 15 years. In that time, I've worked as an oncology nurse, and I was a hospice nurse prior to starting school health in February of 2016. It was a big change to become a school health nurse, both professionally and financially. Sometimes I still look at my pay stubs and I cringe because it's about half of what I made as an oncology nurse or a hospice nurse. But over this year, I have truly embraced the significance of school health and that paycheck does not matter as much as my students. There is its own beauty in school health, just like oncology and hospice nursing. There are no discussions of the bottom line or how do I do more with less, as there are within hospital systems that I've dealt with for 13 years. I come to work every day with a smile because I am making a big difference to the students at Oak Hill Elementary and Severna Park Elementary. I live in their community. I am accountable for my nursing practice to them in their eyes because I live with them. I also am accountable to my peers that I sit with tonight and my supervisors and the parents of the students that I work with. Privatization will decrease that accountability to both our community and to our school board. I feel like our school board needs to have a big say in this because we work very well with them in collaboration every day. Public health and safety should not be outsourced. I don't even believe that this would be considered for the police department, for the fire department, for EMS services. We are public health personnel. Mr. Walker pointed out that if there is a health crisis, we are the ones that come to the aid of the county residents. We would be dispensing the medicines, the vaccinations, any nursing care. If you privatize us, you don't know if that's going to be in a contract. You don't know if you're going to get us. But right now, you will, and we will come, and we will help the residents of Anne Arundel County. We will be there for them. I just want to say that I can't imagine from a financial and fiscal standpoint why a medical center would want to take over because they cannot pay, we can't get paid for the services we provide. So really think what is in it for them and why would they even have this conversation to begin with?
Thank you. Thank you. Go to the next set. I've got two more speakers, then we have seats for four more. Some of you were not able to sign up. Amanda Fiedler and Star Grill. And then this will be last call for anyone else wishing to speak on anything not on the printed agenda. We do have seats for four more folks, three more folks, two more. Ms. Johnson will make one more. Anyone else? Last call. All right, Ms. Fiedler.
Hi, thank you. Thank you. I'm here tonight again to talk about education funding, but not necessarily the budget itself. I feel like we've made a lot of progress in the last few months, but then I went home and received an article that kind of made me want to bang my head against the wall. And it was an article by my own councilman from my district that I wanted to address in case any of you were swayed by any of the comments in the article. In a recent article, Mr. Perucco referenced a young lady who's a student in an Annapolis area Christian school. She quoted the Maryland Constitution as an argument to not fund public education. Quoting the Maryland Constitution, the student suggested the public school system is a monopoly, and that monopolies are contrary to the spirit of a free government and the principles of commerce. The Constitution concludes that monopolies ought not to be suffered. This young lady's father then spoke, Mr. David Whitley. A simple Google of his name uncovered that he's the pastor of the Institute on the Constitution, a group I believe you are strongly tied with, Mr. Perucco. To clear up exactly what the Maryland Constitution says as it pertains to education, let me read to you an excerpt. Article 8, Section 1. The General Assembly shall by law establish throughout the state a thorough and efficient system of free public schools and shall provide by taxation or otherwise for their maintenance. In your scenario, we would have thousands of uneducated children in our county. How does that drive property values, including private school residents? Not every family can afford a private education, which is a choice that those families make. Not every family can sacrifice an income to homeschool. However, every family has a right to education for their children. As I said in my previous testimony, it's ludicrous that anyone in an elected position uses strictly their beliefs to be the voice of their constituents. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people in this county have come together in the last 6 months who never knew each other before. We have testified, we have advocated for our schools. We are here as your constituents. We do not share your views, and we're asking yet again that you be our voice. And I just think these meetings have been full of people asking for supportive education. Please listen to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Grill?
Yes. My son, Wesley Kirks, goes to kindergarten, and he has severe ADHD. And I think all the time we sit here as adults, but you don't think about the children. My son has gone through 7 different medications. He's had a very rough time. And his nurse knows him, and he is very comfortable with her. He doesn't trust people easily. He feels that if he's sick, if the medication is too much for him, he gets a headache, he feels like he's going to throw up. He's very comforted by the idea that he can go see the woman that he knows and likes. She's like a mom to him. He feels safe. And I think that even children who don't take medication, even myself growing up, I had severe stomach problems. I was always in and out of the nurse's office. And to me, it was always a comfort knowing that if I got sick at school, because you don't want your other friends to see you sick, you know that there's a safe place that you can go. And they'll rescue you, they'll take care of you, they'll get your mom or your dad to come get you. And I just feel that privatizing this is really, once again, robbing our children. It's bad enough that my son in kindergarten had to learn how to avoid strangers and learn about how not to be abducted. And then he also had to learn about not just fire drills, but what to do if someone comes in and shoots off an automatic weapon. These are things that a 5- and 6-year-old should not have to do at that age. And I feel that it's important for our children to have a comfort level. And I think that nurses throughout history, for me the 70s, and my son now, it's always been the same thing. They have a very invaluable role in our public school system, and to privatize that and turn it to another corporate, let's save some money here, is disgusting. And I really hope that you all consider that as parents, or not parents, but as humans.
Please summarize.
That is important. Thank you.
Let's just go down the line. Mr. Sinclair?
Oh, Harry Sinclair, 1170. I don't remember. Jeffrey Drive, Crofton, MD. Mr. Chairman, council members, I just want to comment on the Oden Town Center plan. One, they didn't use a standard table of contents. I've got a standard table of contents right here that they could probably use and better do their final plan. And then right in the first couple pages of the plan, it refers to the prior plan or the prior draft of 2015. Instead of the current plan of 2016. So it's just minor stuff in the plan. And also, between the planning and zoning and the council, you managed to somehow, and I don't know how, take the Oden and Mark Station, which is historic, out of the historical area. They just put it in what they call a TOD, transportation something. Okay, and I don't understand how you could do that. And I know there was some objection from that from some of the members who live in the Odenton Historic District. And as I understand, there might be a continuing lawsuit or something about that. I don't know, but that's about it.
Thank you. Ms. Snowden?
Yeah. I don't need to pull that. Sorry. Okay, good. Yeah, I'm here on a happier note, so anyway, well, you know, listen up here on this one, but, and this affects District 3 and District 2. I don't know if you know it, but I'm here to report it, but they're finally going to dredge Marley Creek. Like I say, I found out, you know, through the state's going to do it. It's the Bureau of Engineering for Anne Arundel County is going to do the project. It's supposed to be started October 14th of this year and be ended by February 14th of the following year. They're going to do from the bridge all the way down to Osprey Landing. It's about 3,535 feet, linear feet. Now, all the dredge is going to go at the intersection of Old Marioneck Road and Marioneck Boulevard on that right-hand side. And, of course, I've questioned them about is there going to be any odor problems or what have you. And I've gotten an email back saying that they don't think there's going to be any problem with that. Because in the prior past, when they've dumped dredge like that, that has odor capabilities to it, they haven't had problems with it before. So I'm just surprised, this came up really all of a sudden, and I tried to find out what caused, why all of a sudden they decided to do this, and the best answer I got was because the pollutant levels were so high, they finally decided to dredge it. Of course, I've been complaining about this for like about 10 years and been calling people and talking to people about it, and finally something got done. I don't know if you know about it or not, but I don't know how it's going to affect your aerator system and all that stuff, but I'm just glad to see it get done after all these years because it was really necessary. All right, thank you.
Thank you. And Ms. Johnson, save the last spot for you.
Oh, she was there.
Good evening, Julie Johnson, P.O. Box 6634, Annapolis, Maryland. I am so happy to see the school nurses come tonight and plead their case. I hope they bring mobs of more people. You need to hear it. These people provide tremendous services to everybody in the community. I was a teacher in the schools when we didn't have such staff members, and you have a sick child, like I had a diabetic kid, well, here's the little tube of frosting in case she's ever needs help. Well, yeah, I have a lot of training and a lot more than the average biology teacher, but I am not qualified to be a nurse. And these people provide really, really important services in so many ways. And you have to remember that nowadays, because the average taxpayer is paying 50% of his income in various and sundry forms of taxes, it's very hard to have a parent, a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home dad. So the parents are out trying to earn a living to pay for a really heavy tax burden. And so we have to consider that larger picture of supporting and protecting the children whose parents are, an hour's commute away. But of course, I came tonight because I need to let you know, as I sent you in my email, I've been complaining about this guy who's come into the neighborhood, bought a tiny house, like mine is tiny, but on a lot that's even smaller, and he's going to convert this 1,000 square foot into a 3,000 square foot almost, well, a big house that's all modern and upgraded, except that it doesn't seem like the soils can absorb the septic wastes, which is a problem. But among other things, I'm really upset about, picture coming home and your neighbor has dug out the space from the end of his house to your driveway that's right beside your property line, and it's only 11 feet deep.
Please summarize.
Well, it's very important for inspectors to perform their tasks, and apparently something happened here. So I need to let you know, I could sue the county maybe. And you don't want me to do that, and I don't want to do that, but you got to get some of this stuff going right.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any item any council member would like to place on the agenda?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Walker.
I would just like to say for the record, before some of the folks in the audience leave, that I just did a comment to Mr. Hartzell and to Dr. Chan, and that is that, you have a room full of folks here that obviously support the system. And I think part of the concern, at least from my perspective, that I continue to hear from them is the uncertainty with regards to their positions. And so we are now less than 3 months out from the start of the next school year. And part of the discussion has been about making this move before the next school year starts. And I think a lot of the fear and uncertainty could be put to rest if there was a public position from the administration that nothing was going to happen prior to the start of this next school year and that we were going to take the next year to examine this. So just my final thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. May I have a motion that any partial reading of any bill, resolution, or minutes constitutes a reading of the whole?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Madam Secretary, please read the minutes of May 12th and 16th, 2016.
The meetings were called to order by the chairman and opened with the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
May I have a motion to approve the minutes of May 12th and 16th?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Minutes of May 12th and 16th, 2016 stand approved as read. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of the bills being introduced this evening.
Bill 5116, an ordinance concerning construction code, building permit fees, certain nonprofit entities. Bill 5216, an ordinance concerning Gibson Island Special Community Benefit District, approval of loan and amended assignment agreement.
Thank you. Please read the title of the resolutions to be done.
Resolution 3316, resolution urging the Board of Trustees of the Public Library Association of Annapolis and Anne Arundel County to name the Crofton Library after the late Councilman John J. Clocko III. Resolution 3416, a resolution entitled Charter Amendment, Pension Oversight Commission. Resolution 3516, resolution repealing Resolution 1316, proposing an amendment to the Charter of Anne Arundel County to require that county records be open for inspection and copying in compliance with the Maryland Public Information Act and other applicable law.
All right. Madam Secretary, please read the titles of the... You did that. May I have a motion to suspend the rules to hear and/or vote on resolutions 2816 through 3016 and bill numbers 23, 26, 2816, 3016, 4216 through 4516 out of order.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka. Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso.
Aye.
Mr. Fink.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Motion to suspend the rules to hear and/or vote on resolutions 28 through 3016 and bill numbers 2316, 2616, 2816, 3016, and 4216 through 4516 is passed.
Please read the title of resolution 2816.
Resolution nominating a member to the Anne Arundel County Ethics Commission.
All right. Mr. Walker, I believe this is your resolution.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just
Not a whole lot to say about it.
nominating, just
Yeah.
reappointing a member who's already on the commission.
To the Ethics Commission, right?
Correct.
Any discussion? Mr. Marzick, you have any comments? All right, so, I'm sorry. No discussion from the council, no comments from the administration. Is there anyone wishing to speak on resolution 2816? Seeing no movement, close the public hearing. Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution 2016.
Resolution nominating a member to the Anne Arundel County Ethics Commission.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka.
Aye.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso.
Aye.
Mr. Fink.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Resolution 2816 is passed.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution 2916.
Resolution approving submission of names for the Property Tax Assessment Appeal Board.
Mr. Marzick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Bernie Marzick in the County Executive's Office. Resolution 2916 offers for your confirmation a list of qualified applicants to be submitted to the governor for 1 regular member and 2 alternate members of the Property Tax Assessment Appeal Board. We are required to submit 3 names to the governor for each position, and then the governor makes the final decision for each of these 3 positions. Resolution 2916 offers Larry Roby, Brian Metzbauer, and Maria Baker for the regular member. It offers Owen McDonald Taylor, Michael Gavin, and John Atkins for the first alternate member, and it offers Richard Watts, Rocco Ferretti, and Roger Massey for the second alternate member, and you should have all their bios in front of you.
Great. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on resolution 2816? Seeing no movement, we'll close the hearing. Madam Secretary, please read the resolution 2816.
Resolution approving submission of names for the Property Tax Assessment Appeal Board.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka. Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso.
Aye.
Mr. Fink.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Resolution 2916 is passed.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of resolution 3016.
A resolution entitled Charter Amendment, Budgetary and Fiscal Procedures, Pre-Submission Public Meetings.
All right, Mr. Pruski.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just real quick, I wanted to provide a little bit of history about this charter amendment. Several years ago, as we went to county budget hearings, school board, and other pieces, I noticed that our charter does not require the county executive to hold any budget hearings. I do want to commend former county executive Laura Newman and current county executive Steve Shue for certainly holding town halls and reaching out to people. The model that I put together for this charter amendment came from Howard and Harford County. Certainly, they believe in public input. And I will remind the council that what we're simply doing is allowing the public to vote whether they want additional public input. So I know I've heard some people say this is redundant or this is criticism in terms of other pieces. I want to make absolutely clear when I wrote this, every council member got a copy, the administration got a copy, the public got a copy. So I'm definitely open to discussion, but I just want to make clear about what my intentions were and certainly where it's come from. Thank you.
Any discussion? Administration have?
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Bernie Marzik in the County Executive's office. We would ask you to oppose this amendment. We've spoken to the sponsor about this. We've spoken to several members of the council about this, and there are really several reasons why we would ask you to oppose this. First is that this seems to be part of some of a pattern we're seeing where the council trying to dictate some of the actions and the authority of the county executive, which we do not feel to be appropriate. Second, talking about public input, we think that our office constantly receives input from the public, whether it's through Twitter, Facebook, emails, phone calls, town halls the county executive has, where everyday folks in the constituents in the county, labor unions, nonprofits, businesses, other interests will weigh in and give their input to the county executive as to what they think should be included in the budget or any item for that matter. And third, as Mr. Pruski did mention, we do think it's redundant as the county executive currently does hold these hearings now to allow the public to provide input on this. And the last point I'd like to make is that we believe there's a difference in many of the councilmen I've talked to about this say, well, the county council is required to have public hearings on the budget bill. Why shouldn't the county executive be required to do this? And I think the big difference is that the county executive or the county council is having a public hearing on a bill and are having a hearing on the actual budget. Whereas as the bill is written now, I know Mr. Trumbauer has an amendment to it, but you'd be asking people to provide input on a process that hasn't even begun in December. And you'd be, I think, very premature with people providing input on something that they don't know in the shape it's going to take or what form it will be. Whereas with the bill that goes before the council, it's a specific bill that is before the council with very specific programs and very specific funding levels that are laid out. So for all these reasons, we would ask you to oppose this resolution.
Any comments from the council? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on Resolution 3016? Somebody did sign up. I got 4316. If you signed up, you know who you are. Ms. Fielder?
Hi, thank you. Over the past 6 months, as you know, we have been working as a group of parents advocating for funding of the school system. We reached out to County Executive Shue's office several times to have a town hall, and were told over and over again that the decision had not yet been made and would not be made until further notice. That was repeatedly told to us. So the comment about the town hall being an opportunity for us to get out and talk to the county executive really isn't valid. Secondly, we were so concerned that we wouldn't get our chance to speak that we showed up at the public safety town hall. And when we did try to get up and talk about school funding and the current situation with the education system, we were asked to get to the point, and if we had nothing to say about public safety, that we needed to sit down, which I totally understand. But at that point, we were really concerned that we would not have an opportunity to have our voices heard by our county executive, and I actually started referring to him as the Wizard of Oz. It's like, this guy that you never see behind a curtain making decisions. The second point I wanted to make was that emails are not really an efficient way to get a hold of the county executive. At that safety town hall, I went up to him afterwards and I said that you are getting emails from people that are wanting to gather together as a group and have an email campaign to reach you because we haven't been able to talk to you in person. And he said that his opinion on emails is that one person can hide behind 5 different email names, so he really kind of dismisses them, which I understand. He actually does have a valid point. One person can have 5 different emails and pretend to be 5 different people, which I think is even more of an important reason for us to be able to get in front of our county executive as we sit in front of you and have our voices heard where our tax-paying dollars are going. We shouldn't spend hours talking to you, but you don't have the purse strings and the initial startup of this whole process. He does. And anybody who comes in his position after him does. So I support this change to this.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Public hearing on Resolution 3016 is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title, Resolution 3016.
A resolution entitled Charter Amendment, Budgetary and Fiscal Procedures, Pre-Submission Public Meetings.
All right, I do see there's amendment number 1. Please read the title, amendment number 1.
This amendment modifies the charter amendment by striking the specific December meeting requirement and stating that both meetings be held no later than 30 days before the start of the annual legislative session of the County Council.
Move to adopt, Mr. Chair.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Mr. Trumbauer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Mr. Marzick explained that he had had conversations with several council members about this resolution, and I was one of those, and he ran through some of his concerns, much like he just did when we spoke. And the first one about not liking the legislative branch to tell the executive branch what to do, that wasn't very compelling to me. But the other ones were. And so I said, well, you know, would it be helpful if we took some of the, some of the specific dates out? And my recollection was that he said, yeah, that would be a little bit helpful, but they still wouldn't support it. But I was sympathetic to not being overly prescriptive. And I do commend the current administration for having budget meetings, in the first 2 years. But I do think that institutionalizing this process would be good all around, and certainly for future administrations. So I offer this amendment in hopes that it makes it a little bit more attractive to the administration and some of my colleagues. Thank you.
Sounds good. Administration have any comments on the amendment?
No. No comments.
No comments. All right. Anyone else? Madam Secretary, please read amendment number, please call a roll on amendment number 1.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka.
Aye.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso.
Aye.
Mr. Fink.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 1 is passed.
So this is a resolution. We can go ahead and call the final roll call on this bill. Any other discussion on the final roll call?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Smith?
Yeah, I got, Mr. Bernie, Marzick and I was going to say Mr. Bernie. Mr. Marzick and I spoke previously, and I am sympathetic to that as well. I think, after that conversation, I actually went home and was thinking, well, you're right, that having them talk about a specific piece of the budget would probably be not helpful, but having the opportunity for the public to talk about what priorities should be in the budget may be beneficial to a future administration, or this one or future administrations. And so that's kind of what I was thinking, because when we get it, it's already that molded cake, if you will, and we're just going to sort of change the icing or maybe cut it in half, whereas in this particular case, the budget hearings may be to determine what type of cake and the ingredients should even be in that cake. I don't know why I'm talking about food. I must be hungry, but it's the only analogy I can make to how we get to this particular subject. So, I don't certainly understand why the administration, but this might be an opportunity to sort of be more open to the public to determine what some of those priorities should be at the beginning stages of this. That's all. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. Please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka.
Nay.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Fink.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. Resolution 3016 is passed.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill 2316 as amended.
An ordinance concerning subdivision and development expedited review program.
All right. we've had one or two or maybe 35 conversations regarding this. Can't imagine there's anything else the administration wants to add.
No, sir.
All right. Any questions from the council? That's great. We'll go right into the public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on Bill 2316 as amended? Seeing no movement, we'll close the public hearing. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill 20. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm moving too quick. That's very good. I went too quick.
It looks like to me we're putting the fox in the chicken house, okay? And I can't find my notes, but anyhow. Why would we outsource this stuff? And if we do outsource it, how many people are we going to eliminate in the planning and zoning and the inspection office? Because we're going to outsource it, it's going to cost us money to do that. As I understand it, one of the developers are supposed to pay for it. I think this is, again, allowing the developers and the council members, because here's a list of contributions, okay? And I went through the list of contributions, and it appears to be just a bunch of developers on there for most of you. For Pruski, he just sold some tickets to affairs, and for Mr. Grasso, he had very little contributions also. But some of the others, it was all developers and attorneys that got contributions. Now I'm not talking about $30 for a ticket. I'm talking about $1,000, $3,000, $5,000, all from developers. Now, that to me, okay, is, and you all are bringing this up to give it to them, or P&Z is bringing it in here, and they want to get out of the middle, okay, and they want to give it to somebody else. It's their job. Now, understand, they have some time problems in that they can't seem to get these things through fast enough, so we're going to outsource it. And I just think that's kind of a bad decision. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Ms. Johnson.
Julie Johnson, P.O. Box 6634, Annapolis, Maryland. I certainly concur with Mr. Sinclair that there is really a problem with putting the fox in charge of the hen house. There are so many instances where there is evidence that the lawyers can't discipline themselves, the judges can't discipline themselves, the doctors can't discipline themselves. You've got to have an outside independent organization. And I have, this other thing going on, and here's an engineer who certified the house was in danger of collapsing, except just today, in the emails you got, here's the photograph that shows this guy ripped out all the stuff. And it doesn't appear that it had anything to do with anything being rotted and falling down. Seems like he wanted to put on a whole second floor. And now this is off the top of my head. I could be completely wrong. I don't want to libel or slander anybody, but it seems to me we got problems here. But it's signed and stamped by, the official engineer. And this has allowed him to do stuff that, in my opinion, he shouldn't be allowed to do, or he's, and it's beyond the law. So I simply feel very strongly that some of these developers who want the process to go faster would have a much easier time if they would start with the truth at the beginning. If they would file accurate and complete plats with the boundary lines that have been measured and staked, and that they bring in the certified deed, and the certification of what easements are on the property or restrictions on the use of the land. And if they didn't try to get that little extra, just a little bit more here and a little bit more there, except sometimes the little bits are pretty big. So from my personal experience, I really object to this, and I understand I'm probably not on the winning side, but I'm going to stick to my guns. I do oppose it.
Thank you. All right, the public hearing is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title.
An ordinance concerning subdivision and development expedited review program.
Any conversation?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Trumbauer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just before I vote, I wanted to offer my thoughts on this. Firstly, I think what we just heard from the couple members of the public during the hearing was largely true for the bill as originally introduced. But I want to give credit to the administration. I want to give credit to the Growth Action Network and a number of other people who I think did a lot of work on this bill to severely restrict the scope of it and to put in a number of protections, including a sunset provision, which will allow this to really be a pilot program. So I have to be candid, this isn't my favorite bill, but I do appreciate the work we've done it, and as a measure of good faith, I'm going to support this bill. And again, I'd like to thank the council and thank the administration and the advocates for coming together to try and address those concerns. Thank you.
All right, please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka.
Aye.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso.
Nay.
Mr. Fink.
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. Bill 2316, as amended, is passed.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill 2616.
An ordinance concerning Board of Appeals, Administrative Hearing Officer, Subdivision and Development and Zoning, Notice Requirements.
All right, Mr. Marzick, anything else to say on this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Bernie Marzick in the County Executive's Office. As originally introduced, this legislation was intended to change the activity from paper mail to electronic mail or posting online. Unfortunately, the amendment the council adopted at the last meeting May 16th now makes us oppose this bill for two major reasons. First, we've heard from folks around the county who are uncomfortable with our office handing over personal information that was offered solely to receive these public notices. And second, we haven't heard really a compelling reason as to why our office should be sharing people's private information with the council when that information was intended to be used solely for these legal notices. We also believe that this would actually discourage people from offering their private information in the future for when they're looking to receive this information, for fear that this information will be used for some other unintended consequence or unintended reason other than these legal mailings. So we would ask the council to oppose Bill 2616.
Any conversation? We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on Bill 2616? Seeing no movement, the public hearing is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title.
An ordinance concerning Board of Appeals, Administrative Hearing Officer, Subdivision and Development and Zoning Notice Requirements.
Any other conversation?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Trumbauer?
Thank you. Okay, so it's an admin bill, but you guys don't like the current form, so you're opposing it. So before I vote on this, who's supporting this at this point? I mean, well, I'm not asking for a roll call. I'm just asking if anybody wants to speak in favor of it, because if the admin doesn't want it, I'm going to vote against it. Maybe they go back to the drawing board and bring back another bill, but I just wanted to put that out there before we all vote.
All right, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka.
Voting on the bill.
As amended.
As amended, yes, sir.
Nay.
Mr. Trumbauer.
No.
Mr. Walker.
No.
Mr. Smith.
Nay.
Mr. Grasso.
Nay.
Mr. Fink.
Nay.
1 in the affirmative, 6 in the negative. Bill 2616 as amended is defeated.
Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill 2816.
An ordinance concerning zoning, alcoholic beverage uses, and packaged goods stores.
Mr. Grasso, it's another bill we've done a lot. Do you have anything else to say
No, I
on
think we
this?
done spent enough time and enough love on this.
Amen.
I agree. So we'll move right along.
I never seen something take on a face like this thing. But anyway, I'm fine with the administration clarifying it. It's the amendment is an okay with me, and this way it takes all doubt, possibility, question marks, anything that anybody can possibly ask. This amendment clears that issue up. So I support it.
Anything from the administration? I'm assuming not.
We offer an amendment. We'll talk about that at the appropriate time.
All right, anybody here, we're opening a public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on Bill 2816? Seeing no movement, the public hearing is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title.
An ordinance concerning zoning, alcoholic beverage uses, and packaged goods stores.
There is an amendment. Please read amendment number 6.
This amendment clarifies that the 1 mile limit applies only to restaurants with either off sales or a packaged goods
So
store.
motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second. I'll second that.
3 seconds.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, I think Ms. Jones explained this, but it's just to clarify what the intent of lines 18 and 19 on page 4 of the bill. Our amendment makes certain that this applies only to restaurants with off sales or restaurants with packaged goods stores. So we're concerned about the current interpretation of the language. We would ask for your support of this amendment.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Walker?
Mr. Marzick, so what is the interpretation without that clause in there? I'm confused.
The interpretation could mean a restaurant with off sales or a packaged goods stores. So you could have a packaged goods store.
That's not a restaurant.
That's not a restaurant. And that's not the intent of the bill. The intent of the bill is for restaurants with packaged goods stores.
Got it. Mr. Grasso, you're okay with this amendment, I'm assuming?
Yes, Mr. Walker, I
Okay,
support it.
thank you.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm in there.
All right.
Thank you,
Please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka.
Aye.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso.
Aye.
Mr. Fink.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment number 6 is passed.
All right, great. We'll hear that at the next meeting. Madam Secretary, we have Bill 30. The public hearing was closed, so we're up for a vote right now. Please read 3016.
An ordinance concerning zoning, alcoholic beverage uses, and packaged goods stores.
All right. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka.
Nay.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Nay.
Mr. Smith.
This is the bill that the administration asked us to vote on last meeting. We decided to hold it.
Right.
It's the exact
Because it
same
already
language that's in Mr. Grasso's bill, although Mr. Grasso's bill does go farther.
Yeah, may have to start with Mr. Chairman.
Well, there's no public discussion now.
No,
We
it's
are
not.
voting.
We got to keep voting.
Yeah.
If you vote,
Nay.
Mr. Grasso.
Aye.
Mr. Fink.
aye.
4 in the affirmative, 3 in the negative. Bill 3016 is passed.
All right. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill 4216.
An ordinance concerning public works, utilities, capital, facility recoupment charge.
All right, Mr. Marzick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Bernie Marzick in the County Executive's office. Coming to the table with me is Karen Henry and Leslie Campbell from the Department of Public Works, as well as Kelly Kenny from the Office of Law. Bill 4216 reduces the capital facility recoupment charge. The recoupment charge is a function of the capital facility connection charge that was reduced by Bill 11115. The reduction before you should have been included in Bill 11115, along with the other reductions for the capital facility connection charges. The recoupment charge is charged to those who use our water but have not paid for the capacity in the capital facility connection charges. These include pool fillers, landscapers, commercial irrigation, construction sites, or residents that use over 30,000 gallons of water per quarter. We'll be offering amendments at the appropriate time. If you have any questions, we'd be happy to answer those questions.
Yeah, good question, Mr. Walker, or Mr. Marzick. So this is, you buy a house, you moved in, you paid your capital connection charge, through the builder, I assume. 5 years later, you decide to put in an irrigation system. Then we come back and hit you with this charge? Or is this once you use 30,000 gallons of water, it goes up in cost?
The latter.
The latter, okay.
Yeah.
And we did this, I think, my first year on the council also. We set 2 different stages of water. So your first 30,000 gallons is one price. You go over it, you're now paying.
Each 1,000 gallons over 30,000 gets the additional fee.
Okay. All right.
Is this lowering the rate or raising the rate?
Mr. Walker, Jim?
So is this lowering the rate or raising the rate?
This is lowering the rate. This is lowering the rate to what it should be. This fee is tied to the capital facility connection charge, which we lowered in Bill 11115.
Right.
This rate is tied to that rate, so it should have been lowered at the same time.
Got it, but it's
was
just
not.
missed.
It was
It's a cleanup bill.
Got
correct.
it. Fair enough.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Trumbauer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In the auditor's blue letter, she cautions us that the revenue loss presented is conservative and the negative impact could be higher. Do you agree with that statement? And I mean, if so, if that were the case, how would the county absorb that additional loss?
Well, we have revenues and we have expenses and we have fund balance. So the fund balance would absorb the costs in the next few years.
Okay, so it wouldn't hurt us if we're a little
That's correct.
extra, okay.
Plus, we really shouldn't be overcharging.
Plus, we already voted on the other bill, so this is setting the policy to where that was supposed to
Yes.
be. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question.
Madam Auditor?
I don't think I got a response to my question about refunds. If I did, it's lost in my email somewhere because I don't.
Yes, we plan to do refunds.
You do?
For anyone who's already been charged, we plan to do refunds.
And where does that authority come from? I mean, under what?
Oh, because we're going to make it retroactive.
By Kelly County, Senior Assistant County Attorney for the record, that will actually be addressed in the amendment, because the amendment will propose to make it retroactive. And then that will-
Okay, so you have an amendment, okay.
Correct.
Sorry.
All right, any other questions? We'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone here wishing to speak on 4216? Seeing no movement, the public hearing is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Amendment 4216.
An ordinance concerning public works, utilities, capital facility recoupment charge.
All right, I do see we have an amendment. Please read the title of Amendment Number 1.
This amendment makes this ordinance an emergency ordinance, establishes a rate for the capital facility recoupment charge beginning on March 6, 2016, and provides that this ordinance will apply retroactively to March 6, 2016.
Can I have a copy of Amendment Number 1, please?
I'm so sorry that you didn't get one.
Oh, I'm sure it's my fault. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Chairman, members of the council.
Do we need to adopt it?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
May I have a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Mr. Mars.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, the amendments before you will, as Ms. Jones said, change this to an emergency bill so people will not be charged this higher fee. Will not be charged this higher fee than they should be currently charged. And we're also having an amendment to make it retroactive back to March 6th, which was the effective date of the original capital facility connection fee bill. Therefore, this will eliminate the issue of the refunds that the auditor has addressed, and these fees will go back. These fees will be lowered effective March 6th with these amendments.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Trumbo?
So there's been no billing with the incorrect rates to this point?
That's not true. We have billed.
Okay, so even if when we pass this amendment, when this bill goes into effect, some people will be due refunds?
Yes.
And will those come automatically, or will they have to ask for them?
No. We'll do them automatically.
Okay, so they'll probably get a refund and not even realize it.
Is it a lot?
Yeah, I mean.
It shouldn't be a lot. It's 8 cents per 1,000 gallons.
Okay, so we're talking about the magnitude of a couple dollars on the most.
Well, it depends on how many 1,000 gallons, over 30,000 they use. So there's
Depends
a
on
lot.
how many kids you have,
There's a
probably.
lot of people who use a lot more than 30,000 gallons.
Huh.
Even in the
Okay.
second quarter? I mean, I would see it being high in third because of sprinklers.
Right. Well,
That one kills
I
me.
tried to get a report out of the Munis system, and we had some difficulty with the network the last few days. So.
But just to be clear, so the refund will show up as a credit on their next bill?
That's correct.
They're not getting a check in the mail?
Correct.
Okay.
That's great. I have a follow-up on that. My question, you said I had an issue, but it wasn't an issue. I was asking if we were going to do refunds, and because to me, the code doesn't say it's tied to the capital connection fee. However, it's our policy that we calculate it based on the capital connection fee, because that's a basis to calculate it on. So I was just asking if we were going to do refunds, not that I was concerned that we weren't going to do refunds.
We are doing refunds.
Okay, and you've got
the authority comes from the amendment.
Okay. And is that voted on tonight then, because it's emergency?
No.
Okay.
Amendment is.
The next time, right? Okay.
It's a change of substance, so we have to re-advertise it.
All right, please call the roll on Amendment Number 1.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka.
Aye.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso.
Aye.
Mr. Fink. 7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Amendment Number 1 is passed.
And that's the only amendment we have?
Yes. That's the only one, that's the only one I had.
You did better than me. Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill 4316.
An ordinance concerning zoning, critical area growth allocation, Annapolis Life Care, Ginger Cove property.
All right, Mr. Mars.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Bill 40, Lori Rhodes from Planning and Zoning and Greg Swain from the Office of Law will join me at the table. Bill 4316 authorizes the grant of growth allocation to the property owned by Annapolis Life Care, which is also known as Ginger Cove, by changing its designation in the county's critical area maps from limited development area to intensely developed area. This property is located at 4000 River Crescent Drive in Annapolis and contains just over 30 acres of land. Annapolis Life Care has requested that 29.38 acres of their property be granted a growth allocation to facilitate the construction of a proposed memory care and assisted living addition to the current facility with parking. Under its current LDA designation, the site is at the limit of lot coverage. The owners wish to proceed with their proposal to add 10 assisted living units and 15 memory care units housed in a 2-story building with parking. We've had several bills before the council over the last year and a half requesting a change in designation, but Ms. Rhodes will be happy to answer any questions that the council may have, and Mr. Swain. And I thank Mr. Trumbauer for your email out to the council with your support for this.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do want to call everyone's attention to the legislative summary that Mr. Swain prepared, which I think does a good job of explaining the allocation. But as your member of the Critical Area Commission for Anne Arundel, I do want to give a little bit more background on this particular situation. When we're talking about an allocation, we're moving a piece of property, parcel of land, from one designation to another, a less dense designation to a more dense designation. And you can do that two ways. You can do a resource conservation area, which is generally either not developed or very negligibly developed. You can move that all the way to intensive development, or you can move a limited developed area, which this is, which is already developed to some point, to an intense developed area. And the county has a limited number of acres left that it can do that with. And in the legislative summary, you'll see, I believe, that we only have 80 acres kind of in the bank, and we're proposing with this to move 30. So that's 30 acres left that we're proposing to move from a parcel that's already developed and is not proposing any more shoreline development, just so that they can accommodate a memory care facility. So I have met with the developers and with Ginger Cove, rather, and I've met with some representatives from the community. This is right outside Riva Trace in my district. And some members of the community did have some concerns, mostly about the removal of some trees. Not down by the shoreline, but closer to the property line, very near the 1,000-foot critical area line, in fact. And those concerns were brought to my attention. They were also brought to Ginger Cove's attention. I believe what we will hear tonight is that Ginger Cove has done some new concept designs that address those concerns. We'll find out a little bit more about those in a minute. But I want to be clear, what we're voting on now is just the approval to move from one designation to another. The site development process will still continue. So there will have to be, they'll have to go through the review process. They will have to address concerns from the county agencies or the community. And so the nuts and bolts of this are still going to happen in the future. This is step one. And as I emailed to you guys in an email, I support this conversion for a couple reasons. One, it doesn't disturb the shoreline in the most sensitive areas at all. And two, it addresses what I feel is a public need, increased memory care facilities at an existing facility with a good reputation, if you guys don't know already about Ginger Cove. So I wanted to just do that preamble to let you know where I am. I'm looking forward to the public comments, and if you have additional questions, happy to answer them later on. But thanks for indulging me.
Great. Go ahead and open up the public hearing. I do see we have some folks that have signed up for 4316. I'll call them by their names. We have 4 signed up, and then we have an additional 2 seats if there's anyone wishing to speak that did not sign up. Jeff Norris, Edgar Malik, Daniel Mellon, and Richard Hune. And then again, we have 2 additional seats. And we'll start off with Jeff when you're ready.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jeffrey Norris, and I'm president of the Board of Directors of Annapolis Life Care, Inc., operating as Ginger Cove, a nonprofit continuing care retirement community. I speak tonight in favor of Bill 4316. Currently, Ginger Cove is home to roughly 350 residents who reside in independent living apartments, assisted living suites, or skilled nursing rooms. I am the son-in-law of a current Ginger Cove resident who has benefited greatly from residing in a community where, as his needs have increased, he has been able to transition through the continuum of care from independent living to assisted living and now skilled nursing. Over time, Ginger Cove has responsibly expanded its facilities to meet the evolving needs of its residents. When it opened in 1988, the campus consisted of 5 independent living buildings and a skilled nursing center. Since then, 2 more independent living buildings, a community meeting hall, and an assisted living building have been added. In 2010, Ginger Cove expanded its health center to satisfy modern skilled nursing standards and to add fitness rooms and other amenities necessary to foster the well-being of residents. But more is needed now. Like the United States mainstream population, Ginger Cove's residents are living longer, aging in place, and often requiring higher levels of care. The incidence of Alzheimer's disease and other severe dementias is a looming health crisis in America, the greatest predictor of which is age. Accordingly, it is an issue crucial to Ginger Cove's future that must be addressed. To fulfill its obligations to residents, Ginger Cove must provide more assisted living capacity and create a new, secure, dedicated housing area for those in need of specialized memory care. This requires the addition of a new building on our property. So Ginger Cove respectfully requests that your approval of Bill 4316 growth allocation so that we may begin work on a responsible site development plan that will meet our needs and also be acceptable to our neighboring communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to Edgar, please.
Yes, thank you. My name is Dr. Edgar Malik. I'm the Executive Director of Ginger Cove, and I'm speaking in favor of Bill 4316. I reside at 712 Black Forest Road, Annapolis, Maryland, 21409. I'm supported by a small sample of Ginger Cove staff and residents. I'd like them just to raise their hands to acknowledge their support tonight. During recent strategic planning, Ginger Cove's Board of Directors recognized the development of additional assisted living suites and new dedicated housing area for memory care residents is essential to satisfy projected demand and to continue fulfilling our mission and to meet our obligations to our residents. In particular, with regard to memory care, there are many sobering statistics of which you may be aware. 1 in 9 people aged 65 and older, and there were 9 of you on the dais, has the beginnings of Alzheimer's disease. 81% of people who have Alzheimer's disease are 75 years of age or older. The most beneficial means of providing care to individuals with severe dementia is in a safe, secure, dedicated home-like environment where specialized services and programming are provided. In response, Ginger Cove commissioned a conceptual design that included an additional building expanded parking lot. We shared this information with the County Office of Planning and Zoning, and they recommended growth allocation as the appropriate way to meeting our goals. In good faith, we've attempted to be transparent with our concept design. To wit, December 8th, we shared the initial concept drawings at a regular meeting of the Riva Trace Council that met at Ginger Cove. December 16th, we shared the concept with the Executive Director and the River Keeper of the South River Federation. The Growth Action Network Executive Director was then a member of our Board of Directors that approved this plan. January 19th, we spoke by telephone with the land use planner of the Chesapeake Bay Foundation while he walked our property over the internet using Google Earth. February 3rd, we walked our property with 2 individuals from the Department of Natural Resources. And following the Planning Advisory Board's recommendation in favor of growth allocation, we met with a group of residents at Riva Trace. we want to come up with a plan that satisfies our needs and meets the needs of our community as well. We encourage your support for Bill 4316. Thank you.
Thank you. Daniel.
Thank you very much. Daniel Mellon. I represent Falls Grove at Riva Trace, which is a 24-house community. It's one of the sub-communities of the Riva Trace area, and it is directly adjacent to Ginger Cove. And I want to stress that Falls Grove has been there 10 or 15 years, and it's always considered Ginger Cove an excellent neighbor. And so I'm not really here to speak for or against the bill. I'm here to speak for Falls Grove. Falls Grove definitely appreciates the comments of its councilman, Chris Trumbauer, and Falls Grove definitely appreciates all of the efforts that Ginger Cove has been making with its site design procedures. I would like to bring to the council's attention, I have copies of the aerial photo that I would pass out to the council. I just want the council to understand the law of unintended consequences, which is, in this particular case, if you look at the aerial photo in landscape, north is up, Falls Grove is just below the traffic circle at the entrance to Ginger Cove, and what Falls Grove is very, very much concerned with is the last stand of trees. It's part of those trees are in Falls Grove, part of the trees are in Ginger Cove. Falls Grove believes that Ginger Cove's proposals for the building are good. It is an intensely developed area. Falls Grove understands the policy of spending IDA acreage on LDA that's already developed instead of spending it on undeveloped land. We would ask the council to consider that an amendment, just as there's...
Please summarize.
Yes, a condition about building permits, that the council consider an amendment preserving this stand of trees in the southwest corner. There's plenty of room for parking, and we encourage that parking in the northwest corner of the site that's already cleared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Mr. Walker?
Mr. Mellon, I just want to be clear about what I'm looking at when you're referring to the corner. So you're referring to the Falls Grove community as the one that's the Solstice Lane?
Yes, Solstice Lane. We are just south of the circle.
Okay, right. So the bank of trees between Solstice Lane or the rear of the homes on Solstice and River Crescent Drive is what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
Part of that
and you're suggesting that they build on the other corner that's up here?
Yes, and that is where, in response...
Which is behind, I think that's Winter's Chase or something? I don't know what that is. What is that, Mocking?
Yes. The Ginger Cove has provided a site plan that where the building is to be, and I do have a proposed site plan, and I want to thank Ginger Cove for what they're doing with the proposals and with the parking. They've proposed parking in the northwest corner, which is already cleared. As you can see on the site plan, that area is already cleared. The area down where Falls Grove is, just historically in 1986 when Ginger Cove was built, Cape St. John was there, but Falls Grove was not.
Shifting up there.
So the unintended consequence of this growth allocation would be the clearing of trees in an area where there's no reason to clear trees, because the proposed construction is in the northwest part of the site where it's already intensely developed. Sure. So all we're asking is that and of course we know that this will be done at site plan review and special exception review, but we want the council to appreciate the unintended consequences of the growth allocation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We're going to Richard.
Yes. My name is Richard Hugh, and I live at 2736 Gingerview Lane, which is in the Riva Trace community. I do not directly adjoin either of these properties in discussion, but I'm within a 2-minute walk. I'd like to point out that in addition to representing us as council members, you also are stewards of the Chesapeake Bay and the critical areas. And interestingly, though Ginger Cove is a fantastic facility and serves a tremendous purpose, the fact that a business grows and outgrows its boundaries is not an inherent justification to expand and build. Often businesses have to move, sometimes businesses have to partition and be located in multiple places. So the public health issues that are raised are obvious facts, they're very true, but they don't lend to a mandate that a property be changed in its development intensity. I'd also point out that in the critical areas maps, the Ginger Cove actually falls conveniently right between maps 19, 20, 23, and 24. It lands right on the corner, and you really can't get an appreciation for the critical areas within unless you paste these maps together, which I've done so, and I'll present to you. But the yellow is all limited development. The green is all research conservation areas. And you can see the intensely development. There's hardly any in the orange. There's almost no intensely developed. And all of these intensely developed communities are old communities, more than 30 years old, meaning they were there in the first place. They were intensely developed even before the critical areas legislations became mature. So I would encourage the council to amend this so that the only way an expansion could be done or a change in density would be if there was no change.
Please summarize.
If there was no change to pervious versus impervious surfaces.
Thank you. Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. Thank you for the opportunity to be with you tonight. My name is Joe Devlin, and I am counsel to Ginger Cove, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to work with them in this project, which we think is very excited, very necessary and needed for the growth of our community, which, as Mr. Trumbauer indicated, I think has been a tremendous resource and asset to the Annapolis area and all of Anne Arundel County. As Mr. Mellon noted, yes, there are some issues that have been raised by the neighboring communities. We have initiated discussions, outgrowth with those communities over the past few weeks, and in fact have come up with some concept plans that we've already had the opportunity to review with Cape St. John, which is our most historic neighbor, if you will. We have reached out to Falls Grove through Mr. Mellon, and I think those discussions have been very productive in terms of trying to balance the interests that are at play here. And certainly no secret to this council, but the areas, interests that are at play, relate to tree preservation versus the need to expand. Parking is an issue that we historically look at there, and I honestly believe that, as recognized previously, that the growth allocation meets all requirements of state law, county law. The growth allocation is an overlay that will define the parameters for creation of a site plan. I honestly believe that Ginger Cove will work diligently. And then benefits of this are any environmental impacts will be mitigated, stormwater management will be enhanced, in fact water quality will be significantly enhanced, and obviously we will minimize any impact to our neighbors, whether it's parking, et cetera. I respectfully request that you support the bill 4316. It's in any kind of project like this, there's always controversy and questions that are raised, and we do believe that we have opened the door and we have great communication going on right now. Back in 1986, as Mr. Mellon indicated, before Ginger Cove got started, the communities came together, we worked it out, and we think we have a beautiful product now 30 years later. We're here in 2016. There's no doubt in my mind that reasonable minds will sit down and we will be able to move forward if you will ask the growth allocation for the benefit of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Grosso?
Yeah, whichever gentleman is. I'm looking at the picture right here, and I'm trying to figure out where exactly is the land that you are proposed. So I see this Cape St. John Road, and I see Winters Chase Way. Direct me where we're talking.
Do you see the traffic circle at the entrance to Ginger Cove?
Right here, okay.
Okay. Directly to the south of the traffic circle is Falls Grove. It's a cul-de-sac. It's square.
Okay. It says Solace Lane or something?
Solstice Lane. Yes.
Okay.
Directly to the east of that.
Okay, which that way?
Is the southwest corner of Ginger Cove. And as you can see in the aerial photo, that's all wooded.
I see houses back in there, single-family homes.
That's Falls Grove. That's the east edge.
So you're telling me the area that's wooded over, that's actually 30 acres in there?
No. The entire peninsula is 30 acres.
Mr. Chair, if I can have permission to walk over to Grasso, I'll show him this, because I can just.
I like that.
Thank you,
Whoa,
Mr. Chair.
I have permission to keep you guys in seats. I have the ability.
I don't want to get up walking around.
Mr. Trumbauer, you will not leave that seat. We're meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m.
You just told me you couldn't permit me not to.
Apparently, I didn't know I had powers that I had. Mr. Smith, stop laughing.
You guys might be able to follow along too. All right. So this aerial, okay, this is what the property currently looks like.
Right.
This conceptual plan is what they're proposing. You'll see on the aerial, the site's already developed.
Right.
What they're proposing to do is right here, east of the entrance, they're putting this new building. Okay. So there's a small parking lot there already, but they have to expand the footprint a bit to make that new building. They're also going to move that parking and expand their existing parking by adding this here, which does displace some trees.
over here.
And then also some to this area that's not developed. The original plan took all these trees down. The neighborhood did not like that. They told me very frequently they didn't like that. To their credit, Ginger Cove altered the plan to now reduce the number of trees they're proposing to take down, add this parking area over here in the grassy area, and then the trees they do take down, they have to mitigate and plant in other places anyway. So I think that's what you were asking.
That's exactly what it was. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we hire Mr. Trumbauer as a teacher for the Board of Education. He's a good educator. Thank you.
He's not allowed out of that seat. Unless those kids come to those chambers. Any other discussion? I do think Mr. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Wayne Newton with Messick & Associates. I am the consulting engineer who has worked with Ginger Cove on this project and several others for nearly 20 years now. As Mr. Devlin said, we've always worked with our neighbors, Cape St. John, who has traditionally been there, and now with the new neighbors at Falls Grove who were not there at the last project. We now are working with them as well. I give Ginger Cove a lot of credit for reaching out to everyone with this project and letting them know what's going on, getting their feedback, and we will continue to do so. As they've said, the site plan is not solidified. This is not a site plan issue. This is a growth allocation issue. We have time to work that out. There are several processes in the future of this project before we get to the detailed site plan approval, and that will come. And as I've said previously, Ginger Cove is certainly willing, able, and has traditionally worked with their neighbors to do so. So I would ask your support of this bill. It's a great facility. If you've never been in Ginger Cove, you should take a tour. It's a beautiful place. They do a great job for their residents. And they're just trying to do a better job for the residents in the future. So I appreciate your support.
Thank you. Thank you all. Anyone else wishing to speak on Bill 4316?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Seeing no movement, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Madam Secretary, please read the title.
An ordinance concerning zoning, critical area growth allocation, Annapolis Life Care, Ginger Cove property.
All right, any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Walker?
I apologize for not seeing a visual map of this prior to tonight. I did read the bill, but it didn't click in my head, I guess, until I saw this aerial. I actually have relatives that live within a stone's throw of this, and so I'm going to abstain from voting on this bill. They haven't contacted me about it, but I'm just to be on the safe side, I'm going to abstain.
All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Mr. Perutka?
Aye.
Mr. Trumbauer?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Grasso?
Aye.
Mr. Fink?
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 abstention. Bill 4316 is passed.
Great. Madam Secretary, please read the title 4416.
An ordinance concerning personnel positions in the classified service.
Mr. Marzick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, with me at the table is Andy Fulton Rhodes from Personnel, as well as Kelly Lovett from the Office of Law. Bill 4416 creates 4 new classifications in the county's merit system, and it also increases the number of annual leave days deputy sheriffs one can carry into a new calendar year. The first 2 positions are the procurement category management manager and the procurement strategy manager, are both in the purchasing area of central services, and these are reclassification of currently vacant positions within this department. within the Office, of Central Services. Both of these new classifications were created as a result of the EY study that was recently completed. And both of these positions are being created at NR 20 with a salary level between $68,000 and $116,000. The other two new classifications are in the Emergency Operations Center, and these are replacing contractual positions. These are permanent functions in the planning and training areas within the Emergency Operations Center. The Emergency Management Planner and the Emergency Management Training and Exercise Coordinator are being established at the NR 16 level with a salary range between $51,000 and $86,000. This bill also increases the number of annual leave days a Deputy Sheriff 1 can carry into a new calendar year from 30 to 35. This was just negotiated during the fiscal year 17 negotiating sessions, and it's a benefit currently held by the fire, police, and Deputy Sheriff 2s. Ms. Rhodes or I would be happy to answer any questions the council has.
Any questions from the council?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Walker?
Ms. Rhodes or Mr. Marzick, I'm not sure which one. So your comments at the beginning stated that you had two positions that were vacant that you're reclassifying. Is that to these NR 20 positions in procurement?
Yes, sir,
Are the
that's
positions in procurement currently?
One's a buyer 3 in procurement, and the other one is a telephone operator, which I think is being phased out.
Buyer 3 and telephone operator. So it's like a secretary, telephone operator?
It's a little bit lower, but it's like a receptionist.
Got it. Okay. And those pay ranges on those two jobs?
One is an NR 13, and one is an OS3, I believe. And I think the total salaries are in the blue note done by the auditor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead and open up the public hearing. Anyone here wishing to testify on Bill 4416? Seeing no movement, closing the public hearing. Madam Secretary, please read the title of 4416.
An ordinance concerning personnel positions in the classified service.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski.
Aye.
Mr. Perutka.
Aye.
Mr. Trumbauer.
Aye.
Mr. Walker.
Aye.
Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Grasso.
Aye.
Mr. Fink.
Aye.
7 in the affirmative, none in the negative. Bill 4416 is passed.
All right, Madam Secretary, please read the title of Bill 4516.
An ordinance concerning personnel positions in the exempt service.
Mr. Marzick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the council, Bernie Marzick from the County Executive's Office. With me at the table is Andy Rhodes from Personnel and Kelly Lovett from the Office of Law. Bill 4516 adjusts the pay grade of 2 exempt service positions, and it creates a new exempt service position of transit officer in the county. This bill adjusts the grade level of the Chief of Staff from an E6 to an E8 with a salary range of $109,000 to $182,000. This adjustment is in recognition of the additional duties that are being performed by the Chief of Staff, as well as the salaries of similar positions in surrounding jurisdictions. The Director of Planning is the President of the Economic Development Corporation, and his position is being adjusted from an E7 to an E8 with a salary range of $109,000 to $182,000 in recognition of the duties performed and the salaries in the surrounding jurisdictions as well. This bill also creates a transit officer in the exempt service at a grade E6 with a salary range of $88,000 to $152,000. And this position will oversee all the transportation services currently provided in several different departments within the county and in one central location. This position will be housed at Planning and Zoning, but he or she will report to the Chief Administrative Officer. Like the prior bill, many of these items were discussed during the budget hearings.
Okay. Mr. Chair?
Mr. Trumbauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Marzick, can you tell me again, the Director of Programming, you said is the head of the EDC?
Yes.
Okay.
We actually have a charter resolution down, I think it'll be heard June 20th, I believe, to change his title to make it more reflective, so that's President and Chief Executive Officer, I believe is the title.
So the current Director of Programming, it's been there for a while. I mean, is the issue that he's at the max of the salary range, or is it that overall to attract good candidates we need a bigger range?
He is at the max of the pay range, but we did do a salary survey to look at other departments, other counties, and similar positions to see how our salaries compared to those jurisdictions, and felt that based on the duties and responsibilities and the emphasis being placed on business in Anne Arundel County, that the job deserved an increase by 1 grade.
Okay. I mean, I'm going to trust you on this, but to some of us, that seems like a lot of money to me. Maybe I'm in the wrong business. Maybe I should be in director of programming business. But, okay.
Any other discussion?
Just one comment, not in reference to that, but this council, maybe, because if we look at the surrounding jurisdictions for the council salary,
right,
we are certainly in a different ballpark compared to other jurisdictions, but
yeah,
I'm teasing.
Just by 20 or 30,000.
And we added a charter amendment on that, but it was during an election year, so you can guess how that went.
I'm teasing.
All right, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is there anyone here wishing to speak on Bill 4516? Seeing none, the public hearing is now closed. Madam Secretary, please read the title, Bill 4516.
An ordinance concerning personnel positions in the exempt service.
Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Mr. Pruski?
Aye.
Mr. Peruka?
Aye.
Mr. Trumbauer?
Aye.
Mr. Walker?
Aye.
Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Grasso?
I'm gonna go with a nay on this one because, and even though I said I would support it, it's until the salaries got mentioned, how much the money is, and I'm with
I
Mr.
spoiled it.
Yeah, I can't in clear conscience do that. My wife will take that job. Nay.
Mr. Fink?
Aye.
6 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. Bill 4516 is passed.
Very good. Is there any other business to be brought before the county council? May I have a motion to adjourn? Second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. County council is adjourned. The council will meet tomorrow at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, June 7th for the auditor's comments on the budget, followed by the administration rebuttal at 2 p.m.